Okay, everyone, imagine this. Communication systems go down tomorrow. We're not talking forever, maybe a day, maybe a couple of days. Could you still contact your family? Would your kids know where to meet? Would your GPS still work? And would you even know exactly what is happening? Like what's really going on? Because honestly, most people, they don't really think about how dependent modern life has become on instant communication. And during a real emergency, that uncertainty alone could create panic very quick. So in this video, we're going to cover part 2 of the handbook, After SHTF Now What? Your survival handbook. This section is all about family and communication. And honestly, it's a really long chapter. It's a long section of the handbook. So for the sake of time, today we're just going to go over it and we're going to cover it at a high level. But to get the full benefit from this section, including all the communication systems, the emergency planning ideas, the radio information, the offline communication tools and preparedness concepts, just head on over to preppingcommunities.com. Membership is free. You can access the full handbook and additional preparedness resources because this topic, it goes a lot deeper than the amount of time that we have. So, okay. Most people, we focus on food, generators, fuel, supplies, but we rarely ask what happens if the communication systems stop working. Because communication today, it's not just about convenience anymore, it's infrastructure. And so when communication systems fail and everything else becomes harder, like coordination, transportation, emergency response, decision-making, and emotional stability, most people's first thought usually is not, hey, like, where's my gear? It's like, are my family members safe? Are the people that I care about okay? And one thing that this chapter really focuses on is how fragile modern communication actually is. Most people now depend almost entirely on their smartphones, their messaging apps, their internet access, their GPS, their cloud systems. And under normal conditions, these systems, well, they work incredibly well until suddenly they don't. And what people often overlook is how many systems your phone actually depends on behind the scenes. Like we're talking cell towers, power grids, internet providers, satellites, cloud servers, infrastructure. And these emergencies, they don't always destroy the communication systems, but sometimes they simply just overwhelm them. And with millions of people trying to contact everyone at the same time, that can create massive problems super quick. And we have seen smaller versions of this during storms, wildfires, blackouts, and major infrastructure outages. But one thing that this handbook talks about a lot is uncertainty, because one of the biggest emotional stressors during an emergency is, like we said, not knowing if the people you care about are okay. People are going to immediately start asking, like, hey, are they safe? Can they contact me? Do they know what's happening? Can they still get home? How long is this going to last? And so when communication disappears, the fear is going to grow fast. And that's why communication planning, it matters. Not because preppers or people are paranoid, but because that confusion can create panic. And preparedness often is not about predicting disasters. It's about reducing uncertainty before that chaos starts. And a lot of the preparedness communication planning, it's surprisingly simple. Like things like backup meeting locations, printed contact lists, offline maps, scheduled check-ins, family communication plans, radio frequencies. Simple structure, it can dramatically reduce confusion during an emergency. Again, preparedness is often less about predicting the exact emergency. We do not have a crystal ball, but we need to be able to adapt when the normal systems stop working. Again, preparedness, it's not just about supplies. We got to adapt. And this section, it also gets into backup communication systems like the ham radio, GMRS, CB radios, emergency weather radio, mesh networks, satellite communication, because one major preparedness lesson is this. Preparedness, we need to increasingly layer our communication and not depend entirely on one system. And I think a lot of people are now rediscovering communication methods that older generations already understood very well, because convenience and resilience are not always the same thing. And another major theme in this chapter is community, because historically, communities that maintained communication, they adapted far better during disasters than isolated individuals. Now, I know that there's some lone wolves out there, and I respect that, but I do think that preparedness works better when people coordinate before emergencies happen. And this is a major reason why we created prepping communities, guys. We want you to connect with local preparedness groups. We want you to get involved in those preparedness discussions. Get involved with emergency planning communities. Let us know what your communication ideas are. Teach us, and get in touch with preparedness-minded people nearby, because communication resilience, it's not only technological. We are social human beings, so it's social, right? It's as well. So the handbook, it also talks a lot about offline knowledge access, because if internet systems become unstable, people may also lose access to things like maps, emergency guides, communication references, survival information, medical information. And honestly, that's something that I think a lot of people rarely think about, and that is one of the reasons that we created Prepper Offline and why it exists, because we want you to be able to store preparedness information completely offline. You can store it on your laptop, your USB drive, external drives, backup systems, off-grid devices, because knowledge, it is only valuable if you can still access it during an emergency. So if you ever need to access this full 300-page After SHTF handbook, along with thousands of other survival resources, step-by-step how-to guides, real-world what-if scenarios, instructional manuals, training modules, field guides, checklists, practical preparedness strategies that cover food, water, medical care, communications, security, off-grid living, and more, for the cost of a good book, I would consider getting Prepper Offline today. It does. It gives you the ability to access all of this information offline once you download it, even if the internet, the cell networks, or normal communication systems are unavailable. So one of the biggest preparedness lessons in this chapter is this: communication failures, they create emotional chaos very quick. And being prepared will help reduce that chaos. And not because preparedness people or prepared people know exactly what's going to happen. We don't have that crystal ball, but we have already spent time thinking through how to communicate, where to meet, what systems to use, and how to adapt if the normal systems stop functioning. So here's the big question. I asked it in my last video, and I'm going to ask it again. Do you currently have any backup communication methods if cell networks stop working? Do you have a ham radio, walkie-talkies, offline maps, emergency radio, printed contact lists? Or are most of your plans still completely dependent on your smartphone? Please drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love to hear from you. And if you enjoy preparedness conversations like this, I hope that you'll consider liking, subscribing, ringing the bell, and join us at preppingcommunities.com, where membership is free. So in the next video, we're going to move into part 3, food and water, because once communication uncertainty starts setting in, people quickly begin asking another very important question, and that is, how long can we actually sustain ourselves if systems don't recover quick? Okay, guys, that is a wrap for today. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me, and I will see you in the next video.